We had a little Christian bookstore in that church, and sometimes they'd have Archie comics. And sometimes I was able to smuggle one into the service. If I couldn't, all I had was Tic Tacs and the Bible to keep me company. I was good in school, and I liked reading. So I was very interested in Solomon. They said he was the wisest man that ever lived. I got my Bible, looked through it, and the first book that had his name on it was Proverbs. Now, it had stuff in it like, "Go to the ant, thou sluggard." That's all right. It's like something I'd read in the Farmer's Almanac, though. That ain't really wisdom. Not 900 concubines worth, anyway. That's what the Bible said he had. But then I saw Ecclesiastes. But it started off with, "Vanity, vanity, all is vanity." And that was about how all his learning did him no good at all. I didn't like the sound of that, not whatsoever. But then I read, "All the rivers flow to the sea, and the sea is not full." That was good. There's a time for everything. There's a time to be born and a time to die. There's a time to heal and a time to kill. Oof, that was good. But it wasn't as good as Archie comics. They had Betty and Veronica in them. So that's what I was doing when I met Tony. Tried to smuggle that comic book down into my britches. Tony was 6 foot of solid beef in his mid-30s. Wore heavy work boots, jeans, Western snap-button shirt, leather vest, cowboy hat with a feather in it. He had a wallet chain, and a Van Dyke beard. That's the official beard of Satan's everywhere. What he didn't have were teeth or dentures. Just chewed on his toothless gum. There was nothing even remotely friendly or playful seeming about Tony. He stunned me first time I saw him. Made a strong entrance, lumbering, working that toothless jaw. He was welcomed warmly, though. Our church took on all comers. You'd be going considerably too far to say that Tony actually fit in. The only place Tony would have fit in is a Cormac McCarthy novel. But Daddy befriended Tony. Tony came over to our house in between services on Sunday. I heard him talk a lot. Snatches of conversations from the back seats of cars and other rooms in the house. Daddy sharing the good news of Christ. God loves you. If nothing else is certain in the world, that is. The creator of the universe loves you more than you could ever know. Now, when a grown man with rough hands speaks these words in full conviction to another man of the same kind, they can hit with unexpected force. I saw him put Tony back on the ropes hard more than once. The other blow I saw land solidly came in the form of a little birthday party. Just the 4 of us. Birthday cake, little package of cherry vanilla pipe tobacco. And Tony seemed confused, befuddled by this long-lost feeling of affection and the spark of hope that it might not be a trick this time. Happy birthday, Tony. You see, a lot of the believers I grew up around shared this energizing trait. They were always ready to have serious conversations about serious things, eternal things, the things that make life matter. My folks lived their faith all the time. They had hundreds of tapes of famous preachers and teachers. I was always lonely and I could never go to sleep. I had no podcast. What I had were audio tapes of famous preachers, and I listened to them every night. My folks had studied the Bible while I did my homework. They used this big green book called Strong's Concordance. It listed every instance of every Greek and Hebrew word in the Bible. And they studied grace and forgiveness. And they looked for new life in those old books and in those ancient words.
But me? Powered by the ignorance of youth, I attacked the basic idea of Christianity.
Are you telling me if I don't say this stupid sinner's prayer and mean it, I'm going to get sent down to hell for all eternity? But wasn't this whole thing God's idea in the first place? It ain't nothing but an extortion racket. My mother's answer to my objections came in the form of a little bedtime story she'd like to tell me. Well, you see, son, for all those who don't accept the Lord, when they die, they'll spend all of eternity in a tiny cell, too short to stand up in, too small to lay down in. Tiny demons in the form of scorpions and spiders crawling all over your body for eternity, screaming into your mind, you had a chance for salvation, but you declined it.
I did not find that a comforting bedtime story. Not at all.
You see, my parents just did not care about my annoying questions. They had had a profound religious experience. The old things had passed away, and all things had become new. But me, I was a prisoner of their epiphany. What their beliefs meant to them were something completely different than what they meant to me. It's funny how that works. To me, it was like living in a police state. Everything that was not forbidden was compulsory. I lived with relentless, ruthless pressure to believe, to confess, to conform, to hide my true feelings. Like my hero Spock, to have no feelings. I heard in Christian schools about how Star Trek was a bad show. They said it wasn't a Christian show at all. It was a secular humanist show. I didn't even know what that meant, but I declared I was one right then and there inside my own head. They could pry the phaser out of my cold dead head.
Like my hero Spock, I was no true Vulcan. I had to find a way out. I had to find some relief from the pressure. Food was my first substance to abuse. I might have had no conscious feelings at all, but there I was, sneaking out of my room in the middle of the night to find relief and self-hatred, all down in the bottom of jars of peanut butter and Ovaltine and slices of cinnamon toast. I'd eat them until I couldn't eat anymore, and then I'd go in the bathroom and heave it all back up again.
Daddy and Tony's story was supposed to go like this. The friendship and love of a godly man acts as a powerful healing agent. The broken and damaged man was once a child of innocence and grace. And to that state, Christ, acting through his servant, my father, would restore Tony. And from the tomb of his soul's bondage, Tony would come forth.
Well, Tony's phone calls were the leading indicator that the story was going to go down a whole nother way.
Weekly calls became twice weekly calls. Twice weekly calls became nightly calls. The cavernous need for something in Tony never seemed to abate.
All the rivers flow to the sea. The sea is not full.
His menace was somehow transferred to the telephone. It became itself alive with malice.
Ring!
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 Blessed silence for the 9 seconds it took him to redial her number. Ring!
Ring!
Ring! Turn off the ringer. There's a little red light on the phone to blink. Let you know Tony's still sitting in his apartment thinking about you. Daddy was eventually pressed into a doomed discussion of what today would be called boundaries. They didn't have those in the 80s. Christ never said the word. You can't find it in Strong's Concordance. The message of the Gospels is clear. The war for man's soul is total, requires full commitment. So it must have been with the conflicted heart that Daddy sat down with Tony and asked him to please limit his calls to a certain hour one day a week. to honor the fact that Daddy had a family and obligations. A family and obligations. These are things that Tony did not have. Needs were all that Tony had. If Daddy's plan had any impact at all, it was adverse. Tony called out stopping.
Ring!
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 We sat through entire dinners where the phone never stopped ringing. Once, just to shut it up, I picked up the phone and slammed it down again. I didn't realize that when I did that, all I was doing is telling Tony that we were sitting right there ignoring him. Daddy knew that's what I was doing, though. I saw rage flash across his eyes until it turned into frustration and settled in his shoulders. The phone immediately started ringing again. How can a phone sound angrier? It did. Ring! 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 Wake up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. There's that red light blinking. And sometimes the peace of the silent and dark phone will be replaced by headlights slow rolling past the house, sometimes stopping and sometimes not.
Good night, Moon. Hello, Tony. It seems fitting somehow that I was 15 years old at drama camp in Tulsa when it happened. I had just met Jamie. She was my best friend and the first girl I loved. I was chubby as a small child, and in the 80s in Oklahoma, that left me feeling like an unlovable Quasimodo. Or more to the point, Cyrano de Bergerac, the lover whose big nose made him feel like a monster.
I don't know what Tony said exactly when he called. I just know what Daddy did. He woke up Mama, opened up the bedroom door, pushed her through it, put the car keys in her hand and said, "Go, now, go to my mother's house, pray for me." He barked it out in his staff sergeant voice, the one that cannot be disobeyed. She went. Daddy took the shotgun down out of the closet and prayed. Tony, up over the curb, car, stopping on the lawn. Tony out of his car, running up to our front door, putting his shoulder into it, trying to batter it down. Bam! 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 Daddy told him to go back home. Told him loud and hard so he'd hear it.
Bang! Bang! Bang!
Tony, go home. We'll talk. If you come through that door, I will blow your head off. Bam! Bam! Crack! Tony was through the door into the living room. Shotgun blast in a small room. Destroyer of worlds. There was before and there was after. The first shot hit Tony off center in the chest. His last dying act to lunge headfirst at Daddy, his only friend. The second shot took Tony's head away. Blood streaming down the wall. The only motion, Tony's heart beating his blood out onto our couch. And him resting, finally at peace. The silence of that room, filled with the acrid smell of gunpowder and blood. How long did Daddy sit there in the dark? Do you often have a chance to experience horror? Is the corpse of your friend dead by your hand the fruit of the vine? What voices did Daddy hear? Did he hear my voice from 35 years hence, whispering words of comfort? Or did furies scream in his mind, "This is what you have wrought. You wanted to show your son God's love in practice, and so you have. It meant suffering, agony, and death. It did for Christ, did it not? Did your love and devotion bring this cup to your lips? Did you sacrifice yourself
to send a tortured man to his rest? Did you pray like Christ prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane to let this cup pass? The angel of death does not always pass over blood on the doorway.
But the only question I saw in Daddy's eyes when he told me what happened a few days later was, did I understand? Did I understand what it had all meant to Daddy? I do. I did. I'm 10 years older now than he was then. I have 4 children. He had 1. I understand what it meant to him then. It meant to him then that at every step he did what he thought God led him to do. But what did it mean to me? I never even asked. I just crammed Tony away. Like a bad genie, I crammed him down in that jar of anointinol. He'd been thrashing around in there for 35 years, trying to get back out again. There's a time for everything. There's a time to be born, and there's a time to die. There's a time to heal, and there's a time to kill. And there came time for me to be done